Welcome to the start of a new week here on Anglia.
First tonight, the company whose German locum killed a patient on his first shift in this country has admitted issuing a prior warning to its doctors after 2 previous overdoses.
Take Care Now was responsible for hiring Dr. Daniel Labani, who killed David Gray from Maine in Cambridgeshire, by giving him 10 times the safe dose of diamorphine.
And at his inquest today, the company admitted there had been systematic failures when other doctors made similar mistakes in the year leading up to his death. Well, our correspondent Matthew Hudson joins us live now from our Cambridge News Centre. Matthew, a catalogue of errors then?
Absolute bombshells at the inquest today, Becky. I was sitting in court. I looked at the sons of David Gray, Rory and Stuart. They were open-mouthed at what they were hearing. Not only that other patients had nearly died because they had been given too much diamorphine, but also evidence from a nurse who said she was so concerned at the way Dr. Daniel Labani was behaving on that tragic weekend that she actually picked up the phone and phoned her superiors to let them know. Dr. Christopher Browning, with the white beard, the head of clinical governance for the out-of-hours doctor's service Take Care Now, at today's inquest. He warned senior colleagues that a patient might die after 2 doctors accidentally gave overdoses of diamorphine to back pain sufferers. The overdoses happened in April and August 2007, and on both occasions patients had to be rushed to hospital to be resuscitated. Dr. Browning informed Cambridgeshire Primary Care Trust after the second incident, but he didn't write to his colleagues until January 2008. He told them there was a systemic failure which needed rectifying, but he found limited support amongst fellow managers. Less than a month later, 70-year-old David Gray from Maine in Cambridgeshire was dead. He'd been given a massive dose of diamorphine, 10 times the recommended amount, by German locum Dr. Daniel Labani. He'd arrived in this country for his first shift with Take Care Now just hours earlier. The inquest heard Dr. Browning had spoken to Dr. Labani the day after the tragedy and found him shocked and very upset. Nurse Carol Leonard, with the blonde hair, also saw Dr. Labani that day during their shift at Newmarket Hospital. He asked her what a correct dose of ibuprofen was. Mrs. Leonard told the coroner he also tried to give another patient a prescription without examining them, as she said, not knowing the dose of a drug that's so common and then to prescribe without seeing a patient is a bit odd. So odd, in fact, that she called her duty manager to tell them what has happened. However, she heard nothing back from them until she was contacted by the police. Mr. Gray's family is currently pursuing a civil action against Dr. Labani.
It's obvious that they didn't ensure that doctors coming in from abroad were properly qualified, that safeguards weren't in place to make sure that they could do the job efficiently and effectively.
He's already been given a suspended sentence and a fine by a German court and has not attended the inquest. It continues tomorrow. Matthew Hudson, Anglia News, Wisbech Magistrates Court.
And, of course, we'll be there as well for you. Now, a volunteer from Norfolk who's just returned from Haiti has been speaking about the horrors of the search and rescue effort there.
The death toll has been confirmed at more than 150,000 people, and that's just in the area of the capital, Port-au-Prince.
Gary Francis has carried out rescue work in many of the world's disaster zones, but says the scenes in Haiti were the worst he's seen. Serena Sandhu has more.
Back home in the village of Bridgham in Norfolk, it's a distant cry from the horrors that Gary's seen on his 10-day search for survivors in Haiti.
There were lots of dead bodies that were just lying around in the street. As you can imagine, the smell from them as well just is in the air wherever you walk. So it was pretty rough most days. One of the hardest things is we searched a lot of schools while I was out there, and finding sort of children sort of inside the schools which are dead, knowing that you have to leave the children inside the buildings because you haven't got time to bring them out, or it's too dangerous to start working to try and bring them out, is quite sort of upsetting, really.
He's been to disaster areas before, including Sri Lanka following the tsunami, but he says the devastation in Haiti is the worst he's ever seen.
That's right, yeah, this was a building that what they call a pancake, so literally all the floors just crashed down on each other, so it's just finding the voids and actually getting into the building.
Gary was one of the first rescue workers to arrive in Haiti. 2 days after the earthquake hit, he left Heathrow via JFK in New York to Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. He was then taken by US Army Black Hawk helicopters to Port-au-Prince. Gary and his team were immediately inundated by desperate pleas from locals, asking for help to search for their families.
We have to sort of prioritise. We're only there for a short time. A lot of times people want to go into buildings to bring out the people that they know are dead in the buildings, and again, we just haven't got time to do that. Our responsibility that while we're there is try and find people who are living.
Inside this building, they found a man's mother, grandmother and 2 of his grandmother's sisters, but they were all dead. In all the buildings they searched, they found no survivors. But there have been miraculous rescues in the aftermath of the earthquake. Now that the search and rescue mission has ended, the aid effort is the priority. $600 million has been pledged to help Haiti recover. Gary's done his bit for now. He's just hopeful that aid continues once Haiti is out of the headlines. Serena Sandhu, Anglia News, Bridgham, near Thetford in Norfolk.
What amazing work they're doing there. It's incredible.
Right, next tonight, volunteer lifeboat crews have had their busiest year ever. That's according to new figures released today.
The RNLI launched 9,154 times, more than at any other time in its 186-year history.
Stations across Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk rescued more than 630 people last year, as more and more of us chose to holiday in the UK. This from Lorna Ramsey.
The crew in Harwich did this 125 times last year, so it's no wonder they've got it down to military precision. Like the rest of the RNLI stations across the country, 2009 was one of Harwich's busiest on record, with launches up by 38%. So what has driven such an increase?
I think more people holidayed in the UK due to economic climates. We had a reasonably good summer. There's more people on the water, so pro rata there were more rescues.
But for all the calls, one which emergency crews will never forget is the search for 10-year-old Stella Akambi from Milton Keynes. She'd come to Clacton on a day trip with her friend's family in August. But it ended in tragedy when she came into difficulty swimming in the sea, and her body was later recovered by lifeboat crews. Luckily, fatalities like this are rare, but the majority of calls are from those using the sea for pleasure. The 16 RNLI stations in Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk launched 766 times in 2009, an increase of 25% on the previous year. They rescued 632 people, up from 612 in 2008. Most call-outs were to help sailing pleasure crafts, but there was a big rise in the number of people in trouble in the sea, up from 77 to 104. The RNLI station here in Harwich serves Felixstowe Port behind me, which is the busiest container port in the country. It also serves Harwich International over there. But despite that, the crew says that the majority of their calls comes from people on leisure boats who have got themselves into trouble. And every time one of these boats is launched, it costs money. The RNLI crew at Galston in Norfolk says every penny counts.
The only reason we can keep going is the very generous donations we get from the general public. It costs nearly $250,000 to run this particular station, and all our income comes from donations and legacies.
This Friday is RNLI's SOS Day, and people are being encouraged to support the charity so it can keep saving lives in the future. Lorna Ramsey, Anglia News, Harwich.
As Neil Duffield was saying there, all got to there by donations from you, so thank you very much for that.